Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of 10 out of 10 or Not Tropes with me, the Creative Gene. I was trying to do some multi streaming earlier, but I can't seem to figure it out, so I'm just going to stick to doing a little podcast on YouTube. So, the plan is for me to just rate 10 tropes 1 out of 10. And as people come in and out and they want to put in their input, or if you're just watching this on the review, you can put in your comments for the tropes I go over today. And these tropes are all very random, as tvtropes.com or .org allows me to. Bless you. Bless you again. So the first trope that we have here is kid has a point. In real life, it is generally accepted as a fact that people grow smarter and wiser as they get older. Therefore, whenever a younger character turns out to be right over an older character, it's considered shocking or hilariously ironic. This trope can come into play if the child in question is wise beyond their years or even just too dumb to fool, but is brushed off or ignored because they're just a kid. It needn't be limited to children versus adults either. It's just as apt to arise in debates because adults of different generations, complete with references to the age gap. So in this trope, kid has a point. I like the fact that it doesn't have to deal with just, that's a kid and it's adult, but also different generations. So in this trope, you have an older character who, is being taught, basically, or told something really important by a younger character. As far as rating this trope goes, I'm trying to think of any media that I would see this in. The first instance I have is Spider-Man and Doctor Strange from No Way Home, Marvel movie. He's talking to Doctor Strange about things that could have been done to prevent the spell from changing or how to change the spell and so forth. I think I like this trope a lot. And I think it really shows a part of the younger youth where they are intelligent and not somebody to just kind of brush aside, especially in the situation where if they are both adults, the younger generation is somebody to listen to. Hi, Izzy. I like this trope, but it really depends on how they do it. Yeah, that's a really good point. It depends on how they do it. They have to do it in a way where it's not just like this kid who is like a know-it-all, but almost a kid who is underestimated, right? And they have a good point or a fact that helps move on the story. So I'm going to rate this. You can put your rate in the chat. Kid has a point. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because when it's done well, I really enjoy it. But if, like I said before, it's just a know-it-all kid just telling you how it's going to be. I don't really love it that much. I don't love it, the know-it-all characters. Those guys irk me to no end. The Doctor Strange in the comments, the Doctor Strange and Spider-Man is a good reference. Yeah. I really, really enjoy Marvel. So a lot of references will be made to Marvel if that's the first thing that pops in my head. Okay, let's go to the next trope here. Art-ernate Universe. Okay, a little play on words there, like alternate universe. As an easy shorthand to demonstrate how different worlds are, the art styles in which they are depicted are done differently to emphasize how alien they are. Okay. Okay, so it's like there's different types of universes out there. First interaction I could think of is Spider-Verse across the Spider-Verse. Oh my gosh. Across the Spider-Verse, the second movie, I think it's Beyond the Spider-Verse, where they start going across dimensions and there's different art styles depending on which world you're in. So you have Spider-Gwen, who is more like a watercolor world, and you also have the um I think it's Punk Spider, a punk rock spider, where his is more like a graphic copy and paste kind of montage kind of situation. I'm not really entirely sure what style that's called, but the point is that each Spider-Man has their own unique art style. Spider-Noir, black and white. You also have Penny, who's more animated. Anime of the animation part of it. I don't see these kind of art styles often in media. I think there's also not a lot of media that does different art styles when it comes to these things. Okay, yeah. Like I said right here, the Spider-Man Spider-Verse, the Lego movie. Oh, that's an interesting example. You have the Lego world, the Lego universe, which is, animated. Then you have the real world, and that's real life action. I don't know if it would fit into this trope though, because it's not art, it's just live action versus art situation. So I'm gonna stick with the Spider-Verse reference for this one. And I'm a little biased because it's Spider-Man, and I really enjoy Spider-Man. It's my favorite character. I'm gonna say 10 out of 10. I really think it's enjoyable to when you're traveling to different universes, you can realize right away that it's different based on the art of the universe. If you're watching, if you're chatting, you can put your rating in the chat too. From the previous one, kid has a point. Someone said 7.5 out of 10. That's a good rating. All right, I'm going to do the next trope here. Check and mate. Okay. In the chat, Izzy says, I agree, but true, there's not a lot of movies of it. Yeah, for the Art-ernate Universe, there's not a lot of movies on it. I think it's because when it comes to animation, an animated movie, it uses the same kind of animation style. So it's kind of difficult to just kind of flip between. Maybe it has something to do with the animating teams, and how fast they need to work. I, as an animator, do not know that world, but that is just my assumption why there's not a lot out there. Like you have your, you have your oil painters, your watercolor painters, graphic artists. Like even if they do art, there's so many different forms, and you have to create big enough teams. Anyway, Spider-Verse really does it well. I enjoy it when I see it. I don't see a lot of it. I would like to see more. For the third check and mate, let's read what this is because I don't really know what that means. Okay. Check and mate. The battle's over and you've lost. You just don't know it yet. Let me tell you how and maybe why. Maybe or maybe not involve actual chess motifs. It's a speech that may include elements of such and such, but supersedes all of that in ways likely to mark a moment of awesomeness. It's the hero letting the villain know exactly how they have already been defeated. Okay. So this trope is just this moment where one side is telling the other, you have lost. Completely lost. There's no way out of it, Like in chess, check and make. That's the last move. They've won the game. There's no way out of it. So I guess that trope is maybe the speech of the hero talking to the villain, saying, we've got all your men, we've got you, your plan has been stopped. This is it. There's also examples here where it could also be the opposite. If it's more of a villain has won kind of situation, I'm thinking of like if it's a sequel sorry, if it's the first movie of of like a trilogy, checkmate, you have lost. You have won, you know. I'm trying to think of some media examples. The first thing that comes to my mind is Hunger Games. So check and make, battle's over and you've lost. You just don't know it yet. I don't know, Hunger Games is pretty intricate, but you know, in the very last book or movie, however you've read or you've watched the Hunger Games, the check-in mate is realizing that everything is done, you know, and maybe this is a moment where President Snow realizes that he's lost when he's talking to Katniss and he goes, "Oh, I knew that I had lost when the bombs went off, and as a matter of fact, I was going to sign the surrender myself before those second set of bombs go off." Let me see if there's other pieces of media that would that I'm familiar with that maybe I can explain a little better. Oh, Doctor Strange. No, that's a fan work. Never mind. Let's see. Hmm. Okay, well, all in all, it's the very last moment, the check inmate. This is a definitive end. There's no getting out of it, right? I mean, this trope is, I feel like, necessary for most stories. You know, a check and make, there's got to be a definitive end. I guess, unless you all have an open end writing, end of the story, like an open end story. I mean, I like it. I think it's fine. Check and mate. For, I guess, the only reason it's not 10 out of 10, I do enjoy an open end for a story. In the chat, once again, I like it, but it really depends how they do it. So like an 8.5 out of 10. Right. If it's a definitive moment, it has to be done well. And I feel like in most tropes, if it's done well, it's good. But for this one, for me, 9 out of 10. Okay, next random trope. Stealthy teleportation. Teleportation is usually flashy, with bright lights and vacuum booms, but sometimes it's silent and invisible, only noticeable if the teleported object appears or disappears suddenly. Okay. I see this trope the most often in anime, right? A lot of characters in action animes and movies, all of a sudden they're there and all of a sudden they're not, you know? Sometimes that trope can not be classified as like teleportation, but more just like super speed, right? So this specifically is teleportation. I enjoy that superhero ability, teleportation, going from one place to another really quickly. Stealthy on top of it is very nice. You know, it comes on like out of nowhere, obviously. But I'm trying to think of teleportations that would be like not stealthy, you know? I feel like most teleportations are stealthy, so this being a trope is interesting. And here it says it's usually flashy with bright lights and vacuum booms. I can't think of media where it's loud. I feel like most teleportations are stealthy. So, as far as this trope doesn't seem to have that much room for like looking inward or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. Stealthy teleportation. I like it. I enjoy a stealthy teleportation in anime of like, where did they go? You know, I interpret it more as like it's not like a super ability, but just like an animation show of like they're here and then they're not. more for like humor, but I also enjoy it in action as well. But I think I enjoy it more in humor when one character is running away. If you want to put a rating in the chat, go ahead. But for me, that's a 10 out of 10. I enjoy that. In the chat, Izzy says, this one not bad. I enjoy it. 10 out of 10. I don't think there's a lot of negatives when it comes to stealth teleportation. I think a lot of people can see the benefits of that. Okay. So this one's resigned to the call. Let me see. There are many ways a character can respond to the call to adventure. If he's thrilled about it and excited, he's jumped at the call. If he ignores it, runs away from it, or tries to continue living as though the call never came, there was a refusal to the call. Okay, so those are two other tropes. Jumped at the call, yes, I'm ready to fight. Refused, no, I'm just gonna ignore it and hope it goes away. So this one's resigned to the call. This is new. Then there's the hero who isn't happy about being called, that doesn't believe that he can avoid it. For whatever reason, his reaction isn't, yay, adventure, or leave me alone, I'm not doing it. His reaction is, I can't talk you into picking someone else, can I? I'm gonna have to do this thing, aren't I? Fine. Let's get it over with. He is resigned to the call. So in this trope, you know, it's more like a, I know I have to do it, but I'm not going to enjoy it. So it's assuming responsibility, but it's not the like happy-go-lucky, I am ready to roll. Resigned to the call. I'm gonna say Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games. You know, I think her call specifically is very complicated. You know, it's not very cut and dry, but she goes in between refusal and resigned to the call, and eventually she resigns to it. She's been put in a situation and she can't get out of it, and she's not enthused to do it. Obviously, she doesn't want to be the leader of the rebellion, but she's resigned to the call knowing that it's necessary to the cause. I actually like this trope, especially in comparison to like jumped at the call, someone who's ready to run at it, versus the refusal. It's a very morally gray area, and I think is the response to most people's reactions to a call. I think, you know, if someone's like, I need you to fight a war, or I need you to fight this person, and you're the only one who can do it, you know, if you can't refuse, you're kind of, you land into, okay, you know, I have to, but I'm not happy about it. In the chat, Izzy says, this kind of reminds me of Percy Jackson, like when he was very like, I don't believe but it's true, but I know I have to go on this quest. Yeah, I can see that. I think Percy Jackson is not somebody who is enthused at the idea of being a demigod, and also like I don't really want to go look for this lightning bolt. I don't really see how it has anything to do with me, even though it has everything to do with him as the son of Poseidon. So he's resigned to the call knowing that he doesn't really have a choice, especially as he's getting hunted down and trying to get his mom back. I think that's a really good example of resigned to the call. I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. The only reason, and the only reason I'm not doing a 10 out of 10 is because if the character is dragging their feet and is always constantly reminding the audience that they do not want to be there, that can be very draining, you know? if they have character development, and the resigned to the call is, I'm gonna do it because I know I have to, instead of like, whatever, I'll just do it. That's fine. I don't like watching a very melancholy character. I find it hard to root for them. But more often than not, like 99% of the time, resigned to the call is great. It's realistic, in my opinion. Okay, next random trope here. Jumping on a grenade. Right at the gate. I love this trope so much. I don't even have to read the description. I already know. Captain America. You ever seen that movie? I suggest you watch it. He jumps on the grenade thinking it's a live grenade, and it happens to be a dud. But even if it's not a dud, that is a really intense trope. And it makes me fall in love with the character even more, even if they sadly do not make it, because it's a live grenade. I don't think a lot of people could make it, unless they're super powered, right? In the example here, someone has just chucked a grenade into the room where the squad is. One of the squad throws their body over the grenade and makes a heroic sacrifice. Yeah. I guess here in the notes, the Mythbusters confirmed this myth. Jumping on the grenade does help. So it's not for nothing, which is a whole other trope where it's like they sacrifice everything and it's just useless. In the chat, yep, amazing, 10 out of 10, nothing else to say. Yeah, 10 out of 10. I really like it. It makes the character just perfect. I really do love it. Even if it's a dud or it's real. A tragic, heroic sacrifice. I will be sad, but I will, for the story. For the plot. I love it. Alright, next random trope. Hostage video. Okay, that is also pretty self-explanatory. Connected to the last one a little bit. It's got an army vibe there. Hostage video. Like in Marvel, Tony Stark is captured and his hostage video is sent to, I think it was, I don't quite remember who, I think it was Obadiah. It was sent to him. Either way, right? The victim is captured by the bad guy and their video is sent to somebody for money, right? I see this trope a lot in like White House overtake tropes, White House Down, where they have the bad guy and we have them with the victim or the president. I feel like this trope, when rating it, you see it a lot in action heavy movies, obviously. I think it's more like a necessity, right? It's like an important part of the story. Like if somebody gets captured and they want something for it. I think it's pretty good. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason I don't have a 10 out of 10 is I think a hostage letter with the letters cut out and pasted it has a more creepy effect to it that I enjoy, where it's like you had no handwriting, no follow-ups, and it's just kind of like secretly sent into the mail, you know. But this isn't bad either. I think there isn't a lot to take apart there. I enjoy that trope. Okay, scars are ugly. Okay, and here it says good scars, bad scars, red scars, blue scars. Okay, Dr. Seuss. Maybe it's a tiny little surgical scar or you're covered with scars. Every scar has a story. How many times do I have to say the word scar? My goodness. But it doesn't mean you have to like looking at it. While some think scars are rugged and are used as proof of how cool you are, in other cases they are treated as a mark of shame. This is typically the reaction you get from both the scar bearer and those around them. When played for drama, These scars are genuinely terrifying, having coming from a traumatic or humiliating incident, and some of the story will revolve around them learning to cope with it. Okay. So, scars in general, right? For the most part, people enjoy the scar related trope. So in the chat, I'm reading from the previous one, the hostage video. It's very popular, and those plus little of Marvel and other movies truly make a little sparkle to it. 9.5 out of 10. Yes, I agree. So when it comes to scars, most people enjoy them. You know, whenever they're creating a character for the story, they have the character, usually the bad guy, or the angsty anti-hero has a scar on their face and it's part of their traumatic past. And one of the tropes is maybe them not liking their scar, right? Trying to hide it, thinking it's ugly. I think for most people in characters, the first reaction is thinking that their scars are ugly. You know, I don't see a lot of tropes where people are like, oh my god, I love my scar, because most scars come from a tragic event and they do not like seeing it, especially on the face. I enjoy this trope. I think it shows a little bit of angst with the character and it really tells the backstory of what they've gone through and how they handle situations, right? One thing, however, it can get a little redundant where the character who has the scar thinks it's ugly and they have a second character being like, no, you're beautiful and I will love you with or without your scars, and or you know, whatever. Even though I do enjoy where it's like, I think you're beautiful with the scars or even more beautiful or whatever, it feels a little fan fictiony at times. So you got to be careful when you're writing this story where you don't need to have the two people sit down in a bedroom and be like, oh my gosh, your scars, I will love you regardless, or your scars make you more beautiful. You need to write it in a way where the conversation feels natural. And I actually think I would enjoy it more if the character embraces their scar, you know, go through the trauma and then come out and being like, you either like it or you're neutral about it. But I rate it 7 out of 10 because I do like the angst behind it, the traumatic stories behind it, how they got it, how they handle it, how the characters around them handle it. In the chat, yeah, I see your point. If they push it, I can't watch it or read it. So 7 out of 10. Yes, you have to be, handle it with care. Don't make it too tropey or cliche. Next one. Learning to swim. I don't think that's a trope. I think that's just directions. All right, all right. Luke, I am your father. Okay, let me see here. A parent-child relationship between two characters who were previously thought unrelated is revealed, usually with generous dollops of melodrama. Blood is, after all, thicker than water. Beloved of soap operas, made famous by Star Wars films. Whether it's a good thing or not, it depends on whoever is being given the reveal. Right, so this trope can go either way. You can have the reaction of, I'm your parent, and the child's like, dear God, no, my life is ruined. Or it can be a really emotional point where it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad it's you. I feel like that's more like maybe a foster situation, or you have the mentor who's been fathering the apprentice or the child or just the younger person, and they go on these adventures and they're like, oh, I wish you were like my parent, and the mentor goes, well, I am. I don't, that specifically just popped in my head. It's not really a trope that I would ever use. Maybe I would. I don't know. Anyway, back on track. Luke, I am your father. I am a sucker for these. I really like the reveal of um somebody you maybe look up to is your parent. Now, whether that's a good reaction or a bad reaction, I eat it up every time because it can create a really good emotional moment that brings them closer together, or a really emotional angst moment that could drive them apart, maybe back together later. I don't know. In the chat, it depends who, but it really how they make it and how it affects the audience and how you build up to it make it good. Yes, that's a really good point. The build up has to be good. It has to be written up necessary. Like it comes out of the blue and it's like, okay, that's just lazy writing. But you got to have a little bit of here and there of like foreshadowing that this person is related to them. So you make a good point. The build up for it. If the build up sucks, this trope lays out flat. But done right, 10 out of 10. Okay. One last trope. Master computer. Ah, okay. Last trope, master computer. Older media dealing with computers were predicted on the idea of the master computer. A science fiction dystopian holding humanity in chains could be liberated by finding the key mainframe and either shutting it down or destroying it. Okay. Yes, this is definitely like a futuristic dystopian trope, and it's very specific on where it could be fit. Um, the first piece of media I could think of is iRobot, where the AI, is controlling all the robots, trying to take over the world, basically. This trope is really good when it comes as a plot twist, where you think it's one person doing all this work, only for that one person to disappear or is also confused when the main character actually has a conversation with this person, and all of a sudden behind them the master computer shows up and goes, "It's been me the entire time, the AI controlling the world." A trope that's feeling a little scary with this AI going on right now. I enjoy it, especially as like this world is very technology oriented. Having the bad guy be technology, I like that a lot, actually. But again, like the last one, you have to have good build up for it to work, right? So I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 8 out of 10, because even though I do enjoy it, it's very, like, it has to be in a world of technology, right? You couldn't place this trope in like a Western, right? There's specific tropes that land in specific areas of media. Um, and I guess like that doesn't make it bad. I just think for a master computer, it has to be in a specific time set. But I eat it up in a dystopian world. I love it. I say at 8 out of 10. In the chat, if you want to put in your thoughts and ratings, go ahead. But that will be the last trope of the evening. For this podcast, I want to try to keep it like 30 minutes or so to not overwhelm with ideas and information. In the chat, I agree on the plot twist moment, but it needs to build up. It needs to keep the audience in focus of it. So 7 out of 10. Right. I feel like the general rule for tropes is you can't just throw it in. You have to build up to it. You have to have some foreshadowing for the plot twist, right? But for the most part, 8 out of 10. I enjoy the dystopian technology world and the master computer being behind it all. We have a really good roster for this video. We didn't get anywhere below a 7 out of 10. So if you have ideas for a piece of writing or a novel or even just like a film idea for your TikTok videos, these are definitely great ideas. All right, I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week for 10 out of 10 or not tropes. Have a good night.